Hey everybody, welcome to the Bougie box. Let's be honest, these are pretty fancy knives, and this video is about my fanciest knives, but these pale in comparison to the majority of fancy knives out there. But I just wanted to make this video to kind of share with you my fanciest stuff, the stuff that I'm lucky enough to have collected over the years, and you know, things come in and go out, but this is, as of February 2022, my fanciest drawer in my knife box. Now, Bougie, however you pronounce it, is a modern spin on, I guess, a French word from long days past, and it's kind of defined as aspiring to be higher class than one is, or kind of just living a little higher up in the echelon of budgetry, so to speak. Whatever, it seems to be a hip word these days, so why not create a video that's kind of based around that theme. So if you guys are interested in learning more about these knives, please stick around. Watch the video in its entirety. It's going to be on the longer side, but break it up if you have to. But if you do stick around and watch the whole thing, I would appreciate it. So without any further ado, let's get into each one of these knives in the Bougie box. So guys, let's start with the least bouge in this box, or the least expensive, I guess, which is this one right here. This is just a Spyderco Smock, but it has fancy titanium scales by Kevin Smock, custom knife maker and designer, who designed this knife. He makes these custom scales at home in his workshop and offers them for sale. This has also got a Lynch Northwest clip. It's got blue titanium hardware by Blades We Love, and it has a acid etched and stonewash blade that I did myself. And this knife is just I don't know. When I built this mod, I wanted it to be kind of a fancy knife. As you can see, there's kind of a theme here. I do like raw titanium. I do like milling patterns, and I do like a little hint of blue. So this is the Spyderco Smock mod with custom titanium everything, and I like this guy. It's button lock. It's a flipper with a hole, and it's just a really cool, fun knife. I find that utility-wise, it's very usable. As I mentioned in other videos, I'm not the biggest fan of this choil here, but other than that, I love this knife. And I think it's pretty fancy if you consider all the mods done to it and all the aftermarket parts. Yeah, I like it a lot. There we go. So that's number one out of the way. Number two, let's go with this one right here. Let's see. So this is the giant Mouse GM1. The GM1 was the first flagship folder design from Giant Mouse. It is a titanium frame lock, and it's limited to only 300 pieces ever produced. What I like about this knife is ergonomically, it is just a marvel to behold. It's also a large knife, so it really gives you great purchase, and just feels great in the hand. The action on it is pretty awesome. It's on bearings, and it has multiple forms of deployment with that hole there and that flipper tab. Flipper tab on this thing is massive, by the way, so it really flies out of there with no effort at all. just based on sheer leverage. And yeah, this knife is super, super hard to come by. Extremely rare. You know, they only made 300, but at the same time, there's probably less than 300 left in the world because people lose knives, they break knives. When this thing came out, I want to say retail was about $325 from Giant Mouse, and now they're worth upwards of $1,000. So, yeah, a lot of people are after this mouse, and I am lucky enough that I got one pretty early on when they still weren't that expensive. There you go. Frame lock, blue pivot collar, blue anodized clip, blue backspacer. Each one is individually numbered. This is 104 out of 300. And yeah, this is one of my favorite designs of all time, actually. Anzo and Vox, they just they kill it every time with every design. So that is the Giant Mouse GM1. Kind of bouge, kind of bouge. Next up on the list, let's see. Well, these aren't too bougie, but I mean, you know, the $400 to $500 price range is a lot of money to spend on a pocket knife. So let's get into my Chris Reeves knives. This is the Umnumzan. American made. S35 VN steel. This is the Tonto version of the Umnumzan. Also comes in a drop point. Features their blasted titanium with this nice milling pattern. And yeah, I carried this knife for 2021 exclusively. Did not carry another knife. So you could say I'm a fan. Like all CRKs, it runs on phosphor bronze washers. Takes a little time to break in, but afterwards has a glassy, smooth action. And this one you can actually flip out pretty easily if you want to. Kind of a no-nonsense, beefy, you know, all-business knife. But, you know, CRK is still a premium American-made knife. So this makes the bougie list. And, yeah, this is something that just feels like it could last forever. You know, pass it down to generation after generation. So that's the Umnumzan by Chris Reeve Knives. And to follow that up, dog. Okay, sorry about that. Get interrupted by the dog. To follow that up is the Chris Reeve Sebenza. A staple in the folding knife world. This thing has won awards and is recognized across the globe, and for good reason. It is it's got what I think is a beautiful minimalistic design. Feels great in the hand. Has a super slicey hollow ground blade, and it's just like a quintessential, you know, quality folding knife. Titanium frame lock. For those of you that don't know, Chris Reeve actually invented the frame lock. Prior to him, there were no knives that locked up like this. So, yeah, it was actually named the Reeve Integral Lock, I believe. So, again, following my theme, raw titanium, a little bit of blue. Got the lanyard bead on there. But, yeah, just like the Umnumzan, I mean, it's a regular production knife, but, you know, it is on the expensive side. So I feel lucky enough as well to be able to get one of these. The Chris Reeve Sebenza. Next on the list, let's see, what do we got here? Okay, let's do custom knives. Carroll Custom. So Stephen Carroll is a custom knife maker out of Rhode Island. And his designs are kind of polarizing, but at the same time, I think they do appeal to a wide range of people. This is a handmade knife, and what I like about this is that there are little nuances that really kind of give away the fact that this was made by a guy with pretty minimal technology and tooling, and that he shaped and sculpted this all by hand. It's got either a crosscut or a G10 backspacer. I can't tell. Crosscut carbon fiber, G10. The world may never know, but it is a titanium frame lock. This is the CAMS by Stephen Carroll. And the CAMS stands for Crazy Ass Modified Sheep's Foot. Pretty much a good description, I'd say. The CAMS is pretty crazy. This is a little knife, but kind of feels like a big knife. The style is wild. Quality is amazing. Now, this is one of his early builds. I think this knife was built in 2015. It's running S35 VN steel, and it runs on Teflon washers. I think back then they were kind of all the rage with a lot of custom makers. And to be honest, if it's not a hard use knife, I see no problem with it, really. The only thing that's a major drawback, I would say, when it comes to Teflon washers is, they're not as durable as phosphor bronze would be. But if you're not hard using the knife, I don't think that's a problem, because last I checked, Teflon is inherently slicker than phosphor bronze is, but phosphor bronze is self-lubricating and it's harder, and there's advantages and disadvantages to both, I guess. But yeah, Steve Carroll Customs CAMS. There you go. And moving right on to another Carroll Custom is his KC3, or this one is actually the KC 3.5. And it's designated the 3.5 not because of its blade length, but because of this sculpted handle style is relatively new to his repertoire. So these ones are going to be called the KC 3.5 from now on. Another titanium frame lock. This one's in 3V blade steel, and it features a more traditional drop point style blade. I'm guessing it's called the KC3 for Carroll Customs, maybe his third design. Not exactly sure. But again, these subtle nuances that you see with the milling holes, the finish, it's got that personal touch of a custom knife. This one's got a solid titanium backspacer, sculpted clip. I'm a fan of his jimping. It's usually on the aggressive side, but it's nice and tight, so it's not going to really hurt your finger, but it's going to give you that nice sandpapery kind of grip. Now, this one's got a thumb disc. I'm not the biggest fan of thumb discs, but, they work. They also give you a clean design profile. So this is the KC 3.5 by Carroll Customs. This is also a new acquisition. I got this just a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, I just really like his designs. So this one stays in the Bougie box. Next on the list, crazy. Never thought I would own a Medford. They never really appealed to me, let's say. Now I have two. This is the Slim Midi Marauder. And initially I was looking for one in raw titanium, plain titanium. Couldn't find one anywhere. They're a 6 to 9 month wait if you order directly from Medford. So I scoured the aftermarket, the forums, the Facebook groups, Instagram. I found this one in flamed titanium, and it's one of their older builds of the Slim MIDI because it doesn't have a lock bar stabilizer there. And it's also on washers, whereas the newer ones are on bearings. But I got to tell you, action-wise, and it might be just because this thing's broken in, but action-wise, I think it's a little smoother than the one on bearings. That might change in time, but yeah, there was some hype I saw on this knife, and I had to check it out for myself, and I ended up finding this one the very next day. So I jumped on it, and now I have two. My plan was to, obviously sell one of them off, but once I got them both in hand, I like this knife so much, that I'm hanging on to both of them for now. So, titanium frame locks. These are both in S35 VN blade steel. Both Tonto versions. They do make a drop point version of this knife, but I just love the way that Medford does his Tontos. It's got a convex primary bevel, making it slicey, and then a flat ground tip area to give you that, that stout rigidity at the tip that most Tonto models have. So this one on bearings, this one on phosphor bronze washers, both friggin' awesome. I've been carrying these, well, this one in particular for a while, since I got it, quite often, and it does everything good. Super slicey, kind of sexy. I hate referring to knives as sexy because it just sounds weird, but you know what? We'll do it for the tubes. So yeah, these are my Medford Slim Midis. I'd love to pick one up in S90V because there's some of those out there. Anyway, now we're down to 3. Here we go. Let's get into Grimsmo, shall we? So the Grimsmo Norseman, the Grimsmo Rask. The Rask, they restarted production last year. Before that, it was just friggin' impossible to find one. They only did, like, I want to say 300 and something in the first run. They stopped in 2017, I want to say. And yeah, I chased these on the secondary for a while, and then I just gave up because it was just impossible to try to find one for a reasonable price. And when I came back to the knife world this year, this past January, pleasantly surprised to see that they were out there. They were more common. Still commanding a premium. Don't get me wrong. I mean, these things sell for a couple $100 more than retail. But, for me, it's worth it because this knife is insane. This one is in the, they call it nude or naked, milled crosshatch titanium. It's got blue hardware for the body screws and back spacer or standoffs. Check out the way that the clip and the scales are milled, matching up. Love it. A lot of details on this thing. Also a frame lock, also on bearings, but Grimsmo bearings are insane. This knife, no matter what angle I hold it at, wants to close as soon as I move my finger out of the way. So I'm holding it basically flat, and it just wants to close. Forget about holding it vertically because I'm going to cut myself. It's a guillotine, and it's a light, small knife, so that's impressive that this thing guillotines the way it does. But yeah, the Grimsmo Rask. There it is. Bougie from Canada with Love. This one's got the acid etched and stone washed blade finish they're doing. And this is a fantastic, fantastic flipper. I'm not even big on flippers, as you can see, but, you know, when a knife is flipper only, I'm like, it's not really my preferred build type to go with, but this thing is amazing. Outstanding. The Grimsmo Rask. If you get a chance to handle one, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. And to follow that up, you have the polarizing, legendary Grimsmo Norseman. And yeah, this one matches the Rask. It's got the acid etch blade, the blue hardware, the milled crosshatch titanium handles, also a frame lock, number 5709. This is in RWL 34. They actually both are. This is what Grimsmo has been using since the get-go, pretty much. I think they had a couple models in CPM 154, and then they kind of went over to RWL 34. These guys, but yeah, love this knife. This is my fourth Norseman. I've kind of spent the last couple years trading them, selling one to get another one, just to find the perfect configuration. And I gotta tell you, I think this is the perfect configuration for me, especially with the matching Rask. These guys are gonna live and die as a set. I don't think I would ever. Ooh, no, just whacked them. Anyway, I don't think I would ever separate these two, just because, you know, they match perfectly, and they're just, you know, kind of a dream to have the both of them together. So, there's the Norseman and the Rask that I just clanked together. So, they're mine now. Ha! Oh, look at that. Could barely notice. A little bit of a right there. But that's the great part about stonewashing, is that things like that kind of blend in. So you saw it first. My brand new Norseman just got its first ding on day 2. Whatever. Whatever. Knives are tools, people. Knives are tools. Last but not least on the table is this guy right here. This is the only knife that I ever called a grail. This is the Vox Knives F3 Custom. Jesper Voxnaes only makes about 25 of each custom model, and then he retires it, moves on to the next sequential custom. This is the F3, which was the third custom design, handmade design. And you might notice the F3 name and kind of the overall profile of this knife. Boker did a commercial version of this knife called the Boker F3. But this is the custom, and this is a knife that I wanted for years after I first saw it. Actually, I think the first time I saw this was on Instagram back in probably 2015, 2014 maybe. I think I saw it, I saw it on Jesper's Instagram page. And so for 5 years, I lusted for this knife. And I finally scored one 5 years later. So this is a handmade custom. Again, I believe it's CPM 154 blade steel, hollow ground blade, licensed spider hole. Nice cutout for the lock bar. This thing's a tank. I mean, it's a big knife. It's got super thick blade stock. It's not really practical. It's I mean, it is, but it's tip down only carry. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. I guess when Vox was designing this knife, he said, listen, this is the butt end of the knife. To put a clip on here and a lanyard hole, just like other knives, you have to sometimes figure out, you know, which way is the clip going to go? Is it going to be on a canted angle? Is it going to look weird? On this knife, I mean, I guess the clip was an afterthought, really. He designed the knife, designed the lines, and then said, this is perfection, but I have to put a pocket clip on it. So that's where it goes. But you know what? That doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really yield any hot spot. And the knife was just so desirable that that little detail isn't going to bother me. This is also the only knife in my collection that I don't really carry. I carry everything else, but you know, some I carry more than others. Some I use for certain things and don't use for other things. But this one just doesn't really get carried anymore. And really, it's because it's kind of irreplaceable. He only made 25, and there are possibly less than 25 still out there. So to me, it's worth more just to not risk kind of losing or damaging or destroying it. So this I enjoy at home. Picks for the gram, kind of just playing around with. Occasionally I will you know, wear it out, but I'm not taking this thing on any adventures. And you can hate on that. You can say use your shit, but you know what? Yeah, use your shit. Use your Benchmade or your Spyderco. Hell, even use your you know, your Grimsmo. I do. But 1 out of 25 in the world or less, something you chased for 5 years, something that's irreplaceable. Do whatever you want if you have something like this. I'm not going to beat on it. So that's my one and only Safe Queen. There it is. The Vox F3. So that concludes the Bougie box. These are my fancy folders, expensive NAFs, and you know, just stuff that I feel really, 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 really fortunate to be able to own, at least for now. You know, a lot of times we have to cut stuff loose, let stuff go. I had to liquidate half of my knife collection in 2020 to take care of kind of a financial crisis. But we have overcome that, obviously. And now these are my fanciest knives. So, if you guys have any questions or want to chat about any of these things that you saw today, please hop into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. I will respond. Like this video if you're into this sort of thing, and please subscribe for more content. The usual YouTube kind of pitch there. But yeah, thanks for sticking around for almost a half hour to see my fanciest folders in the Bougie box. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Casual Cutter out.